Now, this is just down the road from the Bull Ring, and it's the entrance to the British Cemetery. When you come inside, you'll see a steep hill. When you get to the top, you're in for a big surprise. Lots of people don't even know that there's an English cemetery in Malaga. It's a sort of a secret in a way, and they certainly don't realise it's right in the middle of the city. This is very much in the romantic tradition of English cemeteries, with the gravestones arranged more or less informally within a rather beautiful informal landscape. And this is absolutely unique. The English cemetery was established in 1831 by the then British consul William Mark. Mark was a sailor, and he fought with Lord Nelson at the Battle of Trafalgar. When he arrived, he discovered, to his horror, that if you were a Protestant in Catholic Spain, you had to be buried up to your head on the beach in the sand, and the sea and dogs would do the rest. He thought this was a rather gruesome practice and petitioned the Kingdom of Granada for land in order to establish a Protestant cemetery. The oldest part of the cemetery is a small walled enclosure at the top of the hill, and this contains a lot of graves of the middle and late 19th century, particularly numerous children. Children seem to have been victims of disease and died at an alarmingly high rate. This is the oldest part of the English cemetery in Malaga. The graves are covered with cockle shells, and behind me is one of the first people to be buried here. It's Robert Boyd, a revolutionary leader who was shot on the beach in Malaga in 1831. Just outside the inner cemetery are the graves of Gerald Brennan, the famous British writer, and his wife, the American poet Gamma Wolsey. And a little bit further down from the inner cemetery is the monument to the 62 officers and sailors who died on the German training ship, the Gneisenau, which sank outside Malaga harbour in 1900. And quite close to there is the grave of the Spanish poet Jorge Huyen, who died in 1984. There's also the grave of Joseph Noble, in whose memory the Hospital Noble was founded for poor seamen and fishermen in Malaga. There's the grave of the famous professor of economic history at Malaga University, Marjorie Grice Hutchinson. And of course there's the grave of William Mark, the consul himself. A hole appeared in the ground just in front of Mark's monument, and to everybody's surprise it was a flight of steps leading down to an underground vault where William Mark, his wife, his children and grandchildren are all buried. In fact, there are a lot of different nationalities besides British buried in the Protestant cemetery from all over the world, from European countries, from the United States and other parts of the world. When you come up the hill, one of the things you immediately see is a red stone Doric structure. Now the whole of the inside has been turned into a church, and services are held regularly every Sunday, as well as on feast days and other special occasions. The cemetery really is in need of a great deal of restoration and repair. There's no money forthcoming from the British government, and a group of volunteers, myself included, decided the only thing to do was to try and earn some money ourselves. And one of the ways we've been doing this by establishing a small shop, a tiendecita, in the gatehouse at the entrance to the cemetery. We are lucky that we have a full-time gardener, John, and he also supports the cemetery by growing plants for sale. At the moment, the volunteers almost can be counted on the fingers of two hands.
We're always looking for new volunteers, ideally with a little knowledge of Spanish and English, to come and help us. It's a fun place to work, and you have the opportunity to meet some very interesting people. So if you have a few hours to spare, please get in touch with us.
If you want to be buried in the cemetery, I'm afraid you can't. If you're cremated, you can have your ashes buried in the cemetery instead. And if you wish to pursue that further, you have to get in touch with the British consul.
Any British national who dies in Spain is welcome to have his ashes buried or placed into a niche in the cemetery. It is our intention to increase this if we can, because we desperately need the income. The English Cemetery in Malaga now belongs to the English Cemetery in Malaga Foundation, a Spanish registered charity. The foundation is in desperate need of financing, and any donation, be it large or small, corporate or individual, would be very welcome indeed.
The British Cemetery needs to be restored and preserved as a historical fact.
It is a historic monument. There's some very interesting people buried in it.
Not only important for British history, but also for the history of the British in Spain and for the history of Spain and Malaga and Andalusia itself.
It's a lovely, peaceful setting in the middle of Malaga. It is recognised by the Malagueños as part of their cultural heritage.
It would be a great pity if it was to deteriorate any further. It's got to a crucial stage where it really desperately needs to be looked after, preserved.